What the?
On paper, it sounds like the dubbed version of an anime would be the same as the original, just in a different language, but it goes way deeper than that. There's cultural gaps, language intricacies, social nuance. Much of that is lost or changed when the source material gets translated, and Naruto is no stranger to this, even though I wholeheartedly believe that it's one of those few anime that got a fantastic dub, which grabbed much of the original's essence. And yet, the fan experiences vary when the manner of consumption is different, which brings me to why we made this video and what we want to address, which is some of the key changes that were made involving moments in Naruto like gore removal, softening, sexual innuendo, and language intricacies that you might have missed unless you've been down this rabbit hole before. If you haven't been down that rabbit hole, this is the perfect time because this is 15 differences between Naruto USA and Naruto Japan. Let's get right into it. Shippuden helped move anime from the delayed dub era to the simulcast era. The original Naruto reached Japan in 2002, running on TV Tokyo from 2002 to 2007. Back then, the English dub meant for the States and other countries experienced a delayed broadcast due to logistical factors, explaining why the USA got Naruto via Cartoon Network's Toonami in 2005. And yet, it aired 209 out of 220 episodes, leaving 11 episodes behind that never saw the light of television broadcast and were only accessible via purchased DVDs and eventually streaming. But this lag in release changed sometime during Shippuden, which ran in Japan starting in 2007. But 2009 was the year that the game changed for those who would previously have had to rely on an English dub, courtesy of Viz Media, and Crunchyroll officially released the first 8 Shippuden episodes on their online platforms with subtitles. Every Friday that followed, Crunchyroll began to add 8 more episodes to their catalog until the releases caught up to the Japanese broadcast, following which they began to release the latest Shippuden episodes with subs only an hour after they aired in Japan. With the foreign release catching up to the domestic market, Crunchyroll's popularity boomed and more people got subscriptions, and the censorship faced by the American broadcasts came to a standstill. Fans outside of Japan stopped having to wait for years to see their favorite shows return, and were now on almost equal footing with the domestic market in terms of how up-to-date they were. You could say that Shippuden was the literal bridge between the two eras, one that relied on old-school broadcasts, dubs brought by year-long delays, censorships, and DVDs, while the other opened the doors for the modern-day streaming culture. Blood was often reduced or digitally removed on Cartoon Network. Speaking of blood, it's almost always omitted from the broadcast version, even for less intense action scenes like the first battle between Iruka Mizuki and Naruto, where Naruto uses his clone jutsu for the very first time. Small moments like the blood coming out of Iruka's nose, the blood at the corner of Naruto's mouth, bloodied shurikens, Mizuki in a pool of his own blood, and the blood on Naruto's face were removed digitally. Within the first arc itself, we saw an oddly high level of censorship due to how bloody the entire battle against Zabuza and Haku was. After all, Naruto is a battle shonen about child soldiers. It's not very sunshine and rainbows, unless of course you want to compare it to more mature works like Dorohedoro. In fact, not only were scenes involving the splatter of blood removed, but any kind of blood stain on the ground, clothes, weapons, and so on, apart from the body itself, was digitally altered. This is probably the strongest visual difference between the original animation and the one seen in the American broadcast. Haku's death felt less brutal in the American broadcast. The Land of Waves arc does a fantastic job establishing Naruto's tone within its first arc. It might be shonen, but it's gritty, violent, and it doesn't shy away from depicting a dark world created from the sacrifices of child soldiers who are nothing but tools. As such, not only is the battle between Team 7 and Zabuza and Haku bloody, but Haku's ultimate death is not very kid-friendly. What happens is that he intercepts Kakashi's Chidori to protect Zabuza and die for him, creating a situation where Kakashi unwillingly kills a child. The scene is brutal. Haku has been impaled with a horrified Kakashi having his hand lodged into the boy. Blood has sprayed all over, and Haku has a visibly mortal wound. And it's not just the visual aspect of it that's concerning. It's narratively very grim, as we have a child soldier throwing themselves into a fatal situation to protect the one person who added meaning to their life. It simultaneously shows us how shinobis operate as tools, while establishing how dark the idea of it is and how untrue it is with respect to their nature. The American broadcast softens this scene. The blood that's sprayed across Haku, Kakashi's face, and Zabuza's face is edited out. Close-up shots prevail in stark contrast to the original direction, which did extra work to show the severity of the mortal attack. The censorship ultimately takes away from the narrative a bit because the scene is horrifying for Naruto, not just because Haku is about to die, but because of the visual gore that he's having to witness at such a young age. He's mortified to see it, and it's a necessary moment to set the world of Naruto in stone. As such, while the censorship didn't change the plot, it reduced the emotional weight of the scene. That aside, the arc had other moments of brutality, such as Zabuza pulling needles out of his throat, or Sasuke getting bloodied after intercepting Haku's ice needles to protect Naruto. The broadcast softened them as well, in some cases even editing them out. I understand why these edits were made, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, since a story about brutal ninja combat needs to have some brutality. It's not supposed to be kid-friendly, and shonen doesn't cater to kids in the first place, unlike standard American cartoons, since the term shonen explicitly refers to teenage boys. Of course, a 16-year-old boy is going to enjoy a dark, action-packed series about child soldiers and gruesome battles. Zabuza's final rampage was made cleaner and less demonic. Before going out cold once and for all, Zabuza went on a final rampage against Gato and his men. It's a violent scene and one of immense character payoff. Had Zabuza been in his element, the violence would have been cleaner, but he was on the verge of death, battered in blood, and out of strength. The moment was meant to be dirty and demonic to nurture his epithet as the demon of the hidden mist. The brutality wasn't just eye candy for viewers, it was necessary to show Zabuza's nature and to also show that it was the moment he gave up on being a cold weapon and began to accept his grief. He went on a rampage due to his grief, not because of orders. He moved dirty and bloody, unlike a trained assassin who would wrap up the work in a few clean hits. But Cartoon Network reduced the brutality and the blood visuals. Dialogue about death and hell was altered to be more indirect. This affected the narrative as Zabuza's redemption, which was originally supposed to look like a savage and desperate attempt made during his final moments, was softened. He didn't become a hero, he couldn't undo his past mistakes, but he went out redirecting his violence towards those who deserved it instead of taking the lives of those he was ordered to kill professionally. The American version's censorship of this rampage reduced how raw the moment was, even though the emotions remained intact. As an arc that establishes the world of Naruto, it was supposed to highlight the contrast between his innocence against the world he wanted to rise to the top of. The censorship removed the disturbing environment the original had intentionally created. Some violent dialogue was softened for US TV. Speaking of dialogue being changed during Zabuza's rampage, the broadcast swapped out any mention of killing with words like eliminate, wipe out, and destroy. I mean, if you rewatch Avatar: The Last Airbender, you'll notice how many times the dialogue uses such roundabout ways to talk about killing, especially in the case of Azula. American censorship as a whole seems to be very much against the usage of the word kill or die. Dialogue such as Iruka's "after my parents died" was changed to "after I lost my parents." Zabuza's "I must kill that old man immediately" was swapped out for "I need to exterminate the old man now." Sasuke's mention of wanting to kill someone is changed to destroy. Also, moments like Naruto saying "what the hell" or "damn it" were either muted or swapped out for more kid-friendly dialogue. Anything referring to death or murder directly, or any usage of even mild curse words like hell, were completely whitewashed out. Even a simple "I'll kill you" exchanged casually between Naruto and Sasuke, prior to Sasuke actually wanting to kill Naruto, was softened. Sasuke's self-injury in the Forest of Death was softened. The Forest of Death arc in the Chunin exams is one of the most brutal shonen school tournaments we've ever seen. It throws 12, 13-year-olds into a world of survival horror, pitting them against opponents way out of their league, throwing them into pits that are too treacherous and deep for kids. And yet, they must persevere because such is the world of the shinobi, and no character in Naruto has embodied the darkness of its world from the beginning to the end as much as the secondary protagonist, Sasuke. Sasuke's standout battle was against a shape-warped Orochimaru, which showed how great the difference in skill was between him trying his best and his opponent simply measuring his vessel. There's a point in this battle where Sasuke is paralyzed by fear, and Naruto, overtaken by a bit of the nine-tailed chakra, mocks him, calling him a scaredy cat, the same thing he had called Naruto when they were escorting to Zuna. Now, Sasuke's got a lot on his mind at this moment. the severity of the battle in front of him, the need to protect his less capable teammates, the humiliation of being mocked by the guy who he had not only mocked, but the whole world saw as his inferior, and most importantly, the weight of his goal to surpass the insurpassable wall known as Itachi Uchiha. This prompted Sasuke to take extreme measures as he went on to stab his leg with his kunai, replacing fear with pain to snap himself out of his mental paralysis. This helps him regain control and also shows a parallel between him and Naruto, with the latter having stabbed his hand with a kunai to strengthen his resolve after Sasuke called him a scaredy cat. In both cases, however, the stabbing, the weapon, and the blood were eliminated from the American broadcast because of censorship rules. Similar to the scenes involving Zabuza and Haku, the elimination of the moment softens the scene and, in this case, takes away a character-defining moment for Sasuke. And this has an impact in the long run because showing such moments are necessary to establish the dynamic between Sasuke and Naruto and establish their individual characters. It also showed how different and ahead he was in comparison to the rest of Team 7 as he turned his pain into discipline instead of charging forward recklessly like Naruto or freezing in fear like Sakura. His first instance of fear also humanized him further after multiple episodes of Sasuke being subject to the most extreme glaze. The Naruto and Sasuke accidental kiss was altered for Cartoon Network. On the topic of Naruto and Sasuke, one of the most standout moments of the duo and the show as a whole is the moment where the two accidentally kissed in class as Naruto squatted on the table, eyeing down Sasuke when someone accidentally pushed him, leading to an unwarranted kiss. The women in love with Sasuke were livid, and everyone was in a state of shock. It's actually one of my favorite gags in the show, to be honest. But the broadcast cut it out, and all we got were some girls who were shocked after the push, unlike the original that showed the kiss for a few seconds, simply out of shock. What's funny is that while the US broadcast cut it out, the Japanese broadcast made a filler episode with another kiss where the two were tied together with some gum-like substance and even had to take a piss together. One of the scenes even had Sasuke livid because Naruto needed to go number 2. But you know what's even crazier? In the manga, Inner Sakura expressed her desire to watch Sasuke take a leak. I mean, the way I'm explaining it is a bit out of context, but it was more like Naruto needing to pee and Sakura being angry over it and cheekily telling herself she wouldn't mind it if it was Sasuke instead. Even the Japanese animation didn't show this, let alone the American broadcast. Things got a little freaky in the manga. But yeah, the Naruto-Sasuke unwarranted kiss is an international treasure. It birthed an insane amount of yaoi content, and it's crazy that the author actually did it and involved the show's most stoic character. Absolutely crazy. Sexy jutsu and nosebleed humor were cleaned up for US TV. Well, since blood was omitted from most of the action scenes, they were most definitely omitted out of the sexual scenes where a character ends up with a nosebleed because horny. Case in point, almost every Jiraiya scene. Naruto's sexy jutsu, where he turns into a naked girl, is obviously censored. Not that the manga shows a completely naked girl, but her privates are obscured with steam and clouds. The American broadcast doubles down on the clouds and steam to blur out the cleavage and the pelvic area. I find it interesting that they didn't remove it because you'd expect they would, but it would also take away the comedy from the moment. So instead of just getting rid of it, they made a sexual joke conservative. Moments like Jiraiya staring at Tsunade's cleavage were also softened with camera angles. Most of the sexual jokes as a whole were whitewashed or completely omitted. In Japan, a fair amount of sexy humor is acceptable in not just shonens like Naruto, but also in shows like Shin-chan that are targeted towards kids simply because such jokes are seen as dumb slapstick humor. I mean, Naruto is an immature 12-year-old who's not the best at battle jutsus, so he decides to neutralize adult males with something he knows is going to work on them no matter what. America doesn't delete the joke, but it visually censors it heavily, keeping the essence of the joke, men losing their composure in the face of a very sexy, scantily clad woman, but the implication of absolute nudity is removed, and minor censorship with clouds covering the necessary bits is amped up for more modesty. Unlike the whitewashed violence, this censorship doesn't take away from Naruto's character. He's still seen as an attention-starved brat who relies on shock value for attention. The only thing that's reduced is the fan service, and the depictions of adult men getting nosebleeds. Jiraiya's pervert humor was softened through dialogue and visual edits. Anime and manga tend to keep a consistent pervert character across shonen. You got Sanji from One Piece, Mineta in My Hero Academia, Zenitsu, kinda, in Demon Slayer, Kon from Bleach, Master Roshi from Dragon Ball, and Jiraiya in Naruto. Jiraiya is the source of a lot of pervert humor, like ogling Tsunade's chest, being exceptionally weak to sexy jutsu, writing erotica, peeping at women's baths, going to brothels, showing up with a scantily clad woman flung over his shoulder, and, most disturbingly, referring to a naked Naruto as sexy. And it is difficult to localize such a character for American kids' television, even though he's meant to be a shameless but powerful ninja and mentor. The broadcast increases the steam in the bathhouse scenes, changes the camera shots of Jiraiya's shameless ogling, switches some phrases, like Naruto referring to him as a dirty old man instead of a pervert, and thankfully switches the part where he refers to a shirtless 12-year-old Naruto as sexy to him mentioning Naruto's lack of body fat. The overall depiction is retained, but it's made much safer, which isn't the first time something like this has happened. I'd say that the censorship involving Yamcha and Master Roshi in Dragon Ball was more intense compared to Naruto, but then again, the pervert humor in Dragon Ball was much more ever-present than in Naruto. That said, Jiraiya is meant to be a morally messy mentor. He's introduced as one of the legendary ninjas, and as such, a supremely powerful character who the authorities of Konoha desperately wanted to see as Hokage. Basically, you've got a guy being chased down to accept the position the protagonist is desperate to achieve, all while he wants nothing to do with it. So you assume he's some intimidating bloke, only to learn that he's a pervert and is quite shameless about it. Naruto doesn't respect him initially and doesn't care about his reputation otherwise, causing him to refer to Jiraiya as the pervy sage. But over the course of the show, he gradually comes around and Jiraiya becomes one of the most important and beloved people in Naruto's life, only making his death that much sadder. Dadabeo became Believe It. Naruto has a verbal tick where he says Dadabeo after his sentences. It's kind of like adding a after what you say to emphasize your point, but instead of going for a direct translation of a word that can't really be translated, the English dub switched it out for Believe It. The manga actually uses both Believe It and for the English translations. Intriguingly, while to this day the original has Naruto saying Dadabeo, the English dub canned it after a few episodes and kept it minimal or absent. I mean, it can get a bit annoying, kind of like ringing a lime because if you overdo it, the taste turns bitter. One of the translators, Mori Moromoto, later explained how if it was absolutely necessary to keep the phrase in the translations after a certain point, depending on the context, she would add a phrase such as, I'm telling you, or the aforementioned, The thing is, the verbal tick was quite important, not so much with respect to the overarching plot, but when we meet characters like Kushina, that is Naruto's mother, or Boruto, both of whom have their own verbal ticks such as Dadabane or Dadabasa, it presents a sense of narrative cohesion. In fact, when Naruto meets Kushina for the first time, he doesn't know who she is because he's essentially meeting her chakra. But it's her verbal tick that gives it away, even more so because Naruto didn't inherit the Uzumaki red hair, and instead has his father, Minato's blonde hair. Believe It was not a literal translation. Eastern languages have a lot of phrases that can't be directly translated into Western languages, specifically English, simply due to the large historical and cultural gaps between the Orient and the Occident. Actually, a Japanese to English translation is quite different, especially because in Japan there's a lot of reading between the lines. While Dadabeo does not suffer from the latter, it kinda suffers from the former, and this is due to the fact that no one in Japan uses Dadabayo. Instead, Dadaba or Teba are more common. The additional yo is an overemphasis of the word, which in turn helps to establish or re-establish Naruto's character over and over again. Let me break it down a bit. So remember when I said the part about the Dadaba is basically that. Said very casually, it fits into the sentence. The yo is kind of a ploy to grab attention, similar to how sometimes desu can change to desuyo for adding weight to a point. Except desuyo is used from time to time, but Dadabeo is purely Naruto. And I say it's tied to his character because Naruto is someone who is grown up lonely. He wants attention, so his loudmouth, bratty personality stems from the trauma of loneliness, which is why he overuses a word that's a ploy for attention. On the flip side, Kushina's Dadabane is different. It's kind of like adding the word right after a sentence. It establishes her personality as someone who stands out, but isn't essentially overdoing it for attention, unlike Naruto. Japanese character speech patterns were harder to preserve in English. Then we've also got words like Sakura's Shinaro, which she says a lot, whether she's throwing a punch or she's disappointed or fixing her resolve to hit on Sasuke again. Whether she wants to say, "let's go," or "oh no," it can be done with Shinaro. This is a Sakura-only thing. Basically, it's "damn it," "vamos," "oh yeah," and "you're joking" combined into one word, depending upon the context. And then there's Sasuke, who uses the phrase "usura tonkachi" for Naruto, which is often translated into synonyms for stupid, depending on the situation. But the word directly translates into "thin hammer," a useless object. It's a nuanced way for him to insult Naruto in a friendly manner, and true to his personality, there's a high-born elegance to it. It's not as direct as Naruto and Sakura's tics, and instead, a more intelligent way of putting things. This is true to Sasuke's nature as an intelligent genius ninja from a prestigious background. Although, to be fair, a lot of things are lost to translation across the story. For example, Sasuke uses the phrase "ore" to refer to himself, which is one of the 3 ways men in Japan refer to themselves. Watashi is the gender-neutral version, commonly used by all women and men in formal or respectable situations. Otherwise, guys use boku, like Boku no Hero Academia. Boku is casual, unlike Watashi, but retains some politeness. Ore is super casual and rough, meant to be used by characters like Naruto, but Sasuke, despite his polished personality, always says "ore." It's difficult to understand his character without a deep understanding of Japanese nuance, and this is where the English dub fails to deliver. Not because they don't want to, but because it wasn't possible. What we perceive initially as Sasuke always being a mostly formal guy who calls Naruto an idiot, the Japanese perceive as a highborn getting naturalized with Team 7 using casual language and using an endearing nuanced term to roast Naruto, who he's actually bonding with. There are other changes, such as how the names are said. The English version uses Naruto Uzumaki, while the Japanese goes Uzumaki Naruto, as across many Asian countries, including Japan, the family name or the last name is mentioned before the first name. As such, we also get Uchiha Sasuke, Uchiha Itachi, and Haruno Sakura in the original Japanese version instead of the first name first version we're used to. On top of that, some other phrases are changed, such as Kakashi being referred to as Master Kakashi instead of Kakashi-sensei, since he is a teacher. Interestingly, Shikamaru refers to Asuma as Asuma without using any honorific, highlighting their closer, more friendly connection and Shikamaru's more casual attitude. Sasuke does the same with Kakashi, but the reason is different. He used to use honorifics when his family and clan were alive, but following their death, he stopped the act completely, symbolizing how Sasuke doesn't really respect anyone else anymore, or rather doesn't feel the need to. Other examples of honorifics would be Sakura using Sasuke-kun for Sasuke, but simply Naruto for Naruto because she views Sasuke with more respect. Meanwhile, Naruto, who has a crush on her, uses Sakura-chan, unlike Sasuke, who simply calls her by her name. Kun adds casual respect, Chan adds a layer of endearment while referring to a girl. San is more respectful, and we see Boruto use it for Sasuke, who he initially looks up to and later gets as a master. But the English dub simply doesn't catch this nuance. Jutsu names were localized in a mixed way. Jutsu names were changed to make them more palatable to an audience by and large unfamiliar with Japanese. The names we see in the dub or even read in translations and subtitles aren't the original Japanese names, except for the likes of iconic attacks like the iconic Rasengan and Chidori. For example, the Uchiha's Fireball Jutsu has a different name in the original. Sasuke's Flame Control is basically his secondary Mangekyo ability known as Kagetsuchi. However, Susanoo and Amaterasu retain their names, specifically due to the words referring to Shinto gods and figures. Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu was originally known as Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, but, keeping the original complicates things here apart from iconic and simple names like the Rasengan. Adapting to English speakers was a necessity here. The voices changed the feel of the main trio. While subs are generally better than dubs, apart from odd cases like Dragon Ball Z, I feel this can go either way with Naruto. However, there's definitely a difference in the feel, especially with Naruto's voice actor. It's common in Japan for shonen male protagonists to be voiced by an older female, as seen with Luffy, Goku, Edward Elric, and Naruto, who was voiced by Junko Takeuchi. It gives him a boyish but rough vibe, whereas, in contrast, Sasuke is given a purely mature and male voice. The English version, however, gives Naruto a more Americanized and rough edge, making him even louder, with Miley Flanagan voicing him. We see it as Sasuke politely turning down Sakura, but in the Japanese version it sounds kinder, and there's a reason for that. Japanese culture isn't super upfront about love or professing love, especially if you're a high-born man. The ideals of masculinity are attached to stoicism, while in America, we go for a more macho characteristic to show masculinity. As such, thank you or arigato can have a romantic undertone. It's not a confirmation of love, but it's not an absolute refusal either. This is basically why Sakura is shown hanging on to that word a lot instead of giving up. Technically, she hasn't been completely rejected. The opening and ending music presentation was different in the US version. Finally, let's wrap up this list with the dub having different openings and endings from time to time, especially on Cartoon Network, as we got Rise by Ian Nickus and Jeremy Sweet for the opening and an instrumental version of that for the ending. Over time, though, the original Japanese endings were brought back in, but the main difference lies in nostalgia, as American viewers are more likely to remember Rise, while Japanese viewers, or those who later watched Naruto online, feel more strongly for Rocks, or the more iconic Season 1 ending, Wind. That said, fans of both versions feel very strongly for Bluebird and Silhouette. All in all, those who experienced Naruto on TV Tokyo, in manga, online, or on Cartoon Network experienced the same story, but for the Cartoon Network fanbase, the essence of certain things was different. I think this is why, in the West, Sasuke is generally disliked because of emo allegations, whereas in the East, people can see the nuance in his behavior more, explaining why he's so popular there. Naturally, a different language will cause differences, and when younger, many of us didn't realize just how dark Naruto could become simply because we weren't made to see the blood. But at the end of the day, we loved and enjoyed the same guy who dreamt of becoming Hokage. And with that, we're wrapping up this video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know which of these differences surprised you the most in the comments down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.